which later we were going to have the first ever meeting between John Cena and Dean Ambrose on SmackDown Live.
Wow.
These are moments, Way. These are the moments that you remember. Out came Becky Lynch, followed by Alexa Bliss for the first ever SmackDown Live women's title contract signing. And Bryan stated that contract signings tend to get out of control. This one will stay civil. And the crowd booed this. Becky is out, and Alexa insults her thick skin and says she needs moisturizer for it. And Becky says that while Alexa is preparing for a pageant, she's preparing for a fight. And Alexa says that Becky does not fit the role of a champion, and her role in life is to succeed, but then fail miserably. You are the Toronto Blue Jays of the women's division, Becky Lynch. Becky was born to be a loser, and Becky agrees. She was not born to be a champion, but she watched TV and was told she could do anything she wanted. And she worked harder than anyone else. She's going to rip Bliss's head off at No Mercy. She says, I was not born a champion, but I fought to become one. And Bliss is going to expose her as a one-hit wonder at No Mercy, she says, and then knocks down Becky, signs the contract, and turns the desk onto Becky in a very uncivil fashion. And what happened when this got uncivil? The fans booed this. You can't please these Birmingham fans. And Becky then attacks her on the ramp, sends her to the back, and returns, and she signs the contract to end the segment. And giving the two women an opportunity to speak, I thought both were fine.
Yeah. This was a big spotlight on Alexa Bliss, giving her this championship match, pretty early into her main roster run. But she was great, I thought. I was not expecting her to be so comfortable and to be so natural in her delivery. And, I was very impressed by her. I didn't really notice her too much in NXT, but she seemed like a great fit here on the main roster up against Becky Lynch. I would say she outperformed Becky, who I thought did great too on this segment.
Then we see American Alpha, the returning American Alpha, who are back after 2 weeks. And the Usos match is up next. So we got a 3-minute build for this rematch. Daniel Bryan's backstage and walks into The Miz and Maurice, and they had been doing this storyline all week long online that The Miz was in contract renegotiations with the WWE, the WWE's ally Quinta. Only The Miz is not becoming a real estate agent and stepping away from the UFC. Instead, they came to an agreement on a new deal, and The Miz is upset. Not because of the contract, but because he did not want this title match with Dolph Ziggler. And Daniel Bryan says, okay, we'll cancel the match, and therefore cancel your new contract. The Miz doesn't understand this, and Bryan informs him the dreaded small print in the contract clause that says, if you turn down a match, the contract is void. You idiot, Miz.
Yeah, I thought Bryan stumbled a little bit here. This was a lot of scripting for him on the show. We saw the same issues with Mick Foley on Monday. And Foley, I would say, is probably a better on-screen performer, at least an actor, than Daniel Bryan is. Who, Daniel Bryan's been doing very good too, but I thought in this particular segment he showed some weakness here. I don't think he's strong enough to do all that. What essentially is live acting in front of they don't pre-tape these, I don't think, anymore. They just stumble and they keep these things on TV. I don't know why they would do that whole Miz storyline off air. I don't know why they built that thing up for weeks, his contract renegotiation. I don't know why you wouldn't announce, or at least see that story play out on TV, and instead choose to do that over Twitter. Because I feel like, that was your tension. And by the time you get to this show, if you're not on Twitter, which I think there are a lot of people who actually aren't on Twitter that are watching pro wrestling, then you would have missed all that. And not to say that there was even that much tension to have enjoyed from Twitter anyway. I don't know why they just had that play out, not on TV.
I thought you could have got a lot out of this whole contract issue, and you could know, personally, I was thinking about this Sunday when we were discussing it on the law. I think you could add such a great dimension to this brand split by having guys' contracts almost like and that's a whole part of this. Like, get into the fantasy side of this, and guys' contracts are up, and The Miz could be playing this out. The Miz is showing at Clash of Champions, where he's in the front row, and boy, is he negotiating with Raw. The payoff to this whole negotiation is that this idiot signed a bad contract where he can never refuse any more matches.
There's no payoff, and I think that was a little disappointing. Also, no repercussions as a result of last week's loss, which suggests to me that it was probably a mistake. They didn't play off of it, so why did you have The Miz lose? And I feel like it was just kind of shoved under the table this week, not really brought up. Obviously for good reason, because it served no purpose, but the people that saw it are still left with thinking that, this guy, not as great as he's claiming to be.
The Usos took on American Alpha. The Usos last week was Candy Cane Usos. This week it was Wolfpack Usos in red and black. And we had American Alpha with an insert promo. Gable stating that he is still standing after his knee injury, and then said, "Tonight we give what we want."
We give what we want. We give what we want.
Usually you take what you want.
You sure they didn't say we...
I'm sorry.
Are you sure they didn't say we get what we want?
I heard give.
Okay, we give what we want. Okay.
We'll find out. Gable had takedowns early on both Usos. The winner of this match will get a tag title shot against Heath Slater and Rhino at No Mercy. Gable goes after the left knee of Jimmy as payback, but then Gable gets his knee tied up in the rope and Jimmy kicks the knee, sends him to the floor in pain, and they go through a break. The Usos have the advantage. Eventually Jordan gets the hot tag and hits alpha plexes to Jimmy and Jay, running spears to both. Jay then comes in, super kicks Jordan, and then Jimmy hits a splash off the top and Gable makes the save. Jay then sends Gable to the floor, who lands on his injured knee. There's a super kick to Jordan. He bounces off and clotheslines Jimmy, so both are down. And then Gable is injured on the corner, and Jordan won't tag him in, seeing the state of his knee, and it leads to a super kick to Jordan, and then Jay clips the knee of Gable on the apron, double super kick, and Jay splashes Jordan to get the win. I thought a really good tag match that these four had, and sometimes you see a feud where it's like they are going to go through a million matches. I don't think I'm going to complain. I think that American Alpha, they are such a great babyface tag team, and I would like to see this feud progress between these two teams. I think this should be the title program.
Yeah. And I think if Heath Slater and Rhino didn't catch so much fire unexpectedly over the past month, I think you would probably see this match for the titles at the next pay-per-view. But this is totally fine, and I think
I really love the Usos as heels.
The Usos are great, man. And their in-ring style, despite working, typically, you hear people say, heels should work slower, they shouldn't work such a fan-friendly style. The Usos are still working fast as ever, and it works for them, both as babyfaces, and now that it works for them as heels, because I think, they're doing a lot of flashy moves, they're doing a lot of high flying, but instead of turning off the audience, they still turn off the audience because of their characters, because they're just unlikable, but now they come across more like really tough final bosses in a video game that you just can't keep up with when you make it to that final level. You know what I mean? So they're not only are they a lot cooler now, they have more identity now, and they're kicking ass even more so in the ring. So I think they're doing great. I thought it was some good in-ring acting from Jordan and Gable here, trying to convey, not tagging Chad Gable in because of the injury. I think it's, it was well done. I thought it was well booked, and I thought they managed to protect American Alpha.
They had shown Slater and Rhino watching backstage. They're eating crackers, and then the Usos come in. Before they come in, actually, Heath wants to get a new chant over where they take the Usos' old entrance, where Heath says, "Rye," and the crowd yells, "No." Don't know if that one will take off or not. We'll find out during their next entrance. The Usos come in and just make fun of them, said they cheated at Backlash, and Jimmy threatens to knock the crackers out of Rhino's hand, and he gets very serious at this point, Rhino does, about the crackers, and then state that they're going to attack Slater's knee, and Rhino stares them down as they leave. As the Usos were the bullies here with Slater and Rhino, and that's your No Mercy match.
Yeah, The crackers are really funny with the Rhino. I like that that's a thing now. Maybe he has to be careful not to throw too much comedy in here with what is becoming a pretty serious program, I think. And I think the Usos, again, they're like tremendous right now as heels. I think they, still have to develop them a lot more as characters, but man, I want them to be like the Samoa and Briscoe brothers. I think they have that type of potential.
They had a feature on Roberto Clemente for Hispanic Heritage Month, which I was informed goes from September 15th to October the 15th to coincide with some labor holidays.
Okay. All right.
So I wanted to provide that update. So should it be Hispanic Heritage Months, or do you consider the 15th to the 15th a singular month?
It should just be 30 days. It's not even Hispanic Heritage 30 days.
That could be maybe a more accurate representation.
Yeah.
Apollo Crews took on Baron Corbin, playing off of last week when Corbin attacked him before the match could start, and we got Jack Swagger on commentary, calling this the A show.
Man, he came across it like such a robot on this show. I don't know what the character is. Like, I'd love to be in that meeting with him and Vince or whoever, or the writers of them trying to talk to Jack Swagger about what your new character is. You're going to go out there. This is a brand new show, Jack. You're going to come up with all these great lines about your name, Jack. Just Google Jack. Google the name Jack and see what comes up and work that into your program. Wait, Rolling Stones, you don't know Jack. Work all that in there. Jack in the Box. I'm sure he'll fill that out eventually. And then just go out there, tell him you really want to win the championship, and that's it. That's all you need to do. And that's what we're seeing. I don't know what this is. I don't know what this is.
There was points in this match, which let me emphasize was 2 minutes and 46 seconds, that I forgot Jack Swagger was on commentary.
Yeah. Sometimes that's not such a bad thing because we've seen instances like Dolph Ziggler being on commentary, for instance, or so whoever, where they'll take too much focus away from the matches and it becomes a little hard to focus on. But I think there's a real fine balance of not being enough of a presence and overbearing, and Jack Swagger was certainly not enough of a presence here.
Crews was showing more aggression in this match, sending Corbin into the barricade, but then Corbin came back, drop kicked Crews out of the ring to the floor, and was driving forearms to the back of Cruz's neck while his head was draped on the barricade.
It looked really good. That little thing of just him going, like hammer fisting essentially Cruz's neck on the barricade.
Yes, not legal in the unified rules, but Baron does not care for that. We're in Alabama here.
I thought Baron showed a ton of aggression here too.
Yeah, he then wrapped Cruz's neck, wrapped him around the post and is kicking at him, and then finally hit the end of days for the win in 2:46, and then we got the stare down with Baron Corbin and Jack Swagger after the match. The countdown is on.
Yeah, I was surprised that they just had Cruz lose like this. They didn't really... It was a clean loss. I mean, there's no real explanation of an injury. He just got the shit kicked out of him. And so I was surprised that Cruz... Of the three, I would say Cruz is the most upside, but... I mean, they just kind of tossed them aside here. And for what? A Jack Swagger, Baron Corbin program? Seriously? Like, who... Come on.
Hasn't exactly been a brand new coat of paint for Jack Swagger on SmackDown.
Him and Bo Dallas, they're obviously giving these guys airtime. They're giving them some attention, but I don't know what. I don't know Jack. I don't know Jack.
How much better would the Kurt Hawkins facts be if it was Jack Swagger saying them all?
I love this list.
It is time for you to face the facts. The Jack facts.
That's really good, man. Whoa, that's really good. I didn't know you had that one.
I didn't either.
Can you say we the people?
Huh?
Can you say we the people?
No. I'm not a puppet here for you, in your enjoyment. They congratulated Rami Malek on his Emmy Award win for Mr. Robot. And then we go into the Kurt Hawkins spots. The only difference is now, instead of them just being the text on the screen, he now says them and he does voices for them. And that it's time for SmackDown to face the facts.
He's doing like a different bad accent for each one of these lines. So
God bless this guy for trying all he can for these, because this is death material that no one could pull off, Dwayne Johnson included.
he's brought in here to play this comedy gimmick for a gimmick that I meant.
Which many would dispute comedy.
I think it's
It's because he's so goddamn tough.
yeah. I don't know. Maybe this was designed to make somebody in the back laugh, but the idea that they would invest so much into something that was intentionally lame, I think, is such a waste of resources.
Yeah, there's enough lame stuff between these two
You don't have
rosters
to
that
look-
you don't have to be
You don't have to
contributing
try.
to that pile.
You don't have to work hard. You have many things that are intentionally lame. But I don't know. I don't know what. Do you think this guy is actually getting a push, or is he just kind of being brought in like Jinder Mahal?
I feel he's going to be very much like Jinder Mahal, where he'll be given a handful of wins, and then he'll be in the role that Jinder Mahal is, and that Jack Swagger will probably be in 2 months. Charlie Caruso interviewed Naomi and Nikki Bella, and Naomi says that she feels amazing every Tuesday because it's glow time. And she gives this motivational speech about being yourself, not being afraid what others have to say, and Nikki also has the glow.
They're like, I think they're reaching a little bit hard to come up with a deeper meaning for this really cool looking intro.
Yeah, this was like Ryback going off on "Feed Me More" being not just a catchphrase; it's a lifestyle. It's like, okay,
I believe it. I think Naomi, she came across, this whole thing came across really memorized for her. But maybe that's all she's capable of at the moment with her abilities. And, if we're just grading how well she memorized something, I thought she did well.
She also called Natalia corrupt, and Nikki says Carmella's trying to make a name for herself, and she is not the Nikki of a year ago. She treats every match like it's her last, and she's rebooted, and Carmella is a bootleg.
Ooh. Yeah. But it was nice that we finally got some, some character development from Naomi, who, for the past several weeks has just been the entrance. Well, she does have a great entrance. She's really caught everybody.
She was the only one of the 4 who got an entrance for the tag match.
Her entrance is actually really cool. But, it's nice that they're trying to think of what more is behind this flashy entrance.
Renee Young was backstage, not at the desk, to interview Dolph Ziggler, so I wonder if that's been shelved for the actual SmackDown.
Maybe.
And is asked how tonight will be any different when he takes on The Miz. Ziggler says he has to give everything. He hasn't been winning lately, and he calls Miz and Maurice SmackDown's Brangelina, which makes no sense. Says,
yeah, I thought he was going to talk about the breakup.
This was, let's get something topical in here, even though there's zero correlation between a couple that has broken up with the couple that has not.
The insult would have been...
Isn't he basically saying they're A-listers now? This is the complete opposite of what this guy's been saying.
No, the idea... the insult would have been how these two would, maybe are only a couple out to get public attention and aren't gonna... I don't know. Aren't gonna...
Reese is gonna leave him?
Whatever, sure. That would have been, I guess, the actual insult.
He says tonight Miz and him are both desperate, and he's desperate to prove he still belongs here. Says he wasn't supposed to be WWE Champion or Kent State Hall of Famer, but he is. And tonight he can do anything.
The exact same promo we've heard this guy cut for months now.
Dolph.
The boy who cried Dolph really is such an appropriate pun for the guy, because he just comes out saying the same thing every single week. It's his kind of one trick. I'm desperate. Tonight's gonna be different.
This is the biggest night of my life, and I'm gonna do it, and I'm gonna say it at this volume because it means emphasis.
Can you do it in the Jack Swagger now?
No, I'm not ready to yell with Jack Swagger yet.
Dolph clearly has this ability, and I think they're relying on it. They're just... The well is more than dry. It's a desert right now with this character.
To emphasize Way's point, as Greg Hamilton did the in-ring introductions, it was mixed cheers and boos for Dolph Ziggler.
Well, if you're part of the audience, how are you going to buy another one of these? You've seen this guy fail 3 times now. I mean, even before that, for years you've seen this guy fail. You had me hooked a little bit for that Cena program, or sorry, that Ambrose program, but the guy just lost unceremoniously there, lost to The Miz at Backlash. Come on.
Ziggler takes Miz's back, and again, going for the rear naked choke as Miz gets into the bottom rope.
I'm surprised I'm not that surprised because it's not their creation. But, I mean, the fact that this guy Kent State Hall of Fame, I think that's a legit thing. Why not even bring the camera there, to show us some footage of the ceremony or whatever?
Nah.
That's a big deal, especially, and it's something that you could really translate into professional wrestling, to rebrand this guy as a serious wrestler.
Yep.
Nothing.
Miz hit a series of drop kicks, knocking Ziggler off the apron to the floor, and he had the advantage. And Miz then started doing the Daniel Bryan kicks to the chest. Ziggler caught the last one and fights back, but then gets run shoulder first into the post. Ziggler stomps the foot of Miz, leading to a Marco Huas reference from Mauro Ranallo. Miz then shoves him again, shoulder first into the post, hits the Daniel Bryan running drop kicks in the corner. Ziggler blocks the skull-crushing finale and hits a jumping DDT, gets a 2 count from that. Miz gets out of the way of a super kick, and then they both go to the floor with a clothesline for a second commercial break. Miz stops a superplex, and then there's a slingshot sit-out powerbomb that Miz gets a 2 count from. He goes for the figure 4. Ziggler tries for a rear naked choke, which again is broken up with the rope. And then Ziggler hit a famouser. Miz kicked out of that. Miz comes back with elbows, and Maurice has the spray, and the referee catches her and ejects Maurice to a big reaction. Ziggler hits the zigzag for this great near fall. The crowd totally bought this. But then Miz goes to the floor, and he grabs his title. Ziggler goes after him and sends him into the steps, and while getting thrown into the steps, Miz grabs the spray that Maurice has left on the floor, and Miz throws the title into the ring that the referee goes to pick up, allowing Miz to spray Ziggler in the eyes and hit the skull-crushing finale for the win. I thought a very good match that these two have had, both at Backlash and in this match.
I agree.
And we're getting another one.
Yeah. Good match, though, but, I mean, the interest is really tough for me to get into going into it. Dolph losing again, I really hope we see some evolution in the character. I really do not want to see another promo of him trying to talk about how he really has to win this one or else. Or else what? You've lost. Now it's time for the or else. Or else I come back and I cut another promo just to have another match that I can lose again. It's very tough for me to buy into. I think The Miz, to me, he's a little cooled off after last week and seeing his treatment this week. To me, he's your second top heel on the show. I rank him above Bray Wyatt, certainly, in terms of how the momentum he had coming off of that episode of Talking Smack. And I feel like last week, they really seemed to elevate him to a new level by having him beat up James Ellsworth and put himself into the main event. But ever since he took that pin, and then this week, just kind of reinserting himself into that contract thing I thought was a fumble. Nothing came of that. And then now he's, again, I feel just kind of firmly, this week he just felt like he's firmly tucked into the mid-card again. And not really building off of that momentum.
Got to get a blindfold match out of this.
Because of the spray.
Yeah.
Right. The whole match, clearly.
Up next, Randy Orton, who was cleared last week, returned here on SmackDown, taking on Eric Rowan. The RKO was blocked immediately, and then he was hit with a spinning power slam by Rowan. Rowan did land a drop kick here, sending Orton to the floor, but then Rowan got run into the steps, and then as he re-entered the ring, got caught with a kick. Orton then hit a draping DDT, called for the RKO, getting the crowd going, and hit it for the win in 2 minutes and 21 seconds.
Brief match. I kind of tuned it.
Yes, all of this was about the post-match, though, because then Randy Orton got the microphone, and this might have been the best part of SmackDown for me, was got on the mic and he said, for all these years I've said I've had voices in my head, but since SummerSlam there's one voice in my head, and that's Brock Lesnar. And this Saturday night in Chicago, I'm going to silence that voice
Did you see Brock Lesnar?
No.
Oh.
Brock Lesnar and this promo did not exist for this match that's happening on Saturday. This big rematch way that's bigger than anything at Clash of Champions.
They're not going to acknowledge that.
Why are they even doing it?
Part of his deal, I guess.
Like, couldn't Brock just face a guy on this house show? Why do a match that actually does have interest?
Maybe they advertised it? Could that be it? Did they advertise Orton?
Well, yeah, they advertised it. I mean, that was...
Specifically before SummerSlam.
To me, it's like, that's a match you can go back to at some time. Which I guess you can still do. This is not going to be acknowledged on television. Yeah. But anyway, the lights went out, and then came on, and Eric Rowan's mask was in the ring. And then they went out again, and Bray was on the screen.
Is anybody really impressed by the lights out disappearing trick anymore? It's like... I mean, I used to do that for school presentations. You know? Like... I don't know, I'd be presenting something about, like, some book, Lord of the Rings or something, and then lights out, lights back on. Now I'm dressed as a new character, as a different character.
Was this at school during daylight hours? I don't know if the lights out might have had the same effect as this.
Shut the curtain or something.
Bray compared them to a couple. I thought they were going to make a Brangelina reference here. Bray could have made it. Stating, "Till death do us part," and that Orton is a man that can die at any time, and Bray is a god that can never die. Which will be your CNN clip if ever something awful happens.
This was certainly a week where I feel like I got nothing out of a Bray Wyatt promo. What was... If you had to... Hey, John, what did I miss on SmackDown? What did Bray Wyatt say? He's my favorite wrestler. I really want to know what I missed.
He's in a bizarre relationship with Randy Orton until death do they part.
Oh, yeah? That sounds really boring.
And they're building up to a holy matrimony match in the ring.
I wish you said that.
Yes.
I got a lot more entertainment and value out of what you just said than this. This was just a generic Bray Wyatt line that might as well have been pre-programmed into a video game when you're playing a Bray Wyatt.
For all the stalling of this program, they better have the goddamn greatest match we've ever seen at No Mercy.
I thought this segment was a waste of time, including the match. Unless you're a really big fan of Randy Orton. If the sight of Randy Orton alone is enough to excite you, then go out of your way to watch this. Otherwise, not worth your time.
Carmella and Natalya took on Nikki Bella and Naomi. I almost guarantee Ziggler and Miz went really long. That match was 16 minutes. The women here got 32 seconds. And
much of that was, I guess a portion of that was Naomi's entrance.
Yes. Natalya applied the sharpshooter to Nikki right away, and then Carmella pulled Nikki to the floor, upsetting Natalya, and the DQ was called as she pulled Nikki to the floor and sent her into the barricade.
How is this a DQ? This happens all the time.
Well, that's verbatim what Carmella said on Talking Smack.
Oh, okay.
She's like, I've seen way worse than this. Why was it a DQ?
She was in the match. She just broke up her own team's pin.
Not allowed.
Yeah. Naomi now has neon furry boots.
Oh, I didn't catch that in the 32 seconds.
Bruiser Brody could have had this entrance.
Yeah, so Nikki gets beat up by Carmella, and eventually Naomi got around to saving her after knocking Natalya down. Charlie interviewed AJ Styles backstage, and is asked about the rivalry with Ambrose and Cena, and AJ Styles gives us the definition of rivalry from the dictionary, and says that definition means that he doesn't have a rivalry with either because it has not been equal. He has beaten both Cena and Ambrose, and he's superior to both, and the only way that he could lose the title was being booked in this three-way where he doesn't have to be beaten to lose the title, but he expects tonight Cena and Ambrose to destroy one another.
That was fun. I thought, AJ plays that kind of arrogant, cocky, kind of, almost comically cocky guy pretty well.
And the main event, John Cena, Dean Ambrose. AA and Dirty Deeds got blocked early on by both, and then Cena goes shoulder first into the post. They go through the break. There's a bulldog by Ambrose. Cena catches him with the STF, and Ambrose gets to the rope. Ambrose then came back with a suicide dive. A crossbody was caught by Cena, and he hit the AA, with Ambrose kicking out of it. Then Ambrose came back and hit the Dirty Deeds, as he counters an AA. Cena kicks out of Dirty Deeds. They trade shots. There's a slingshot clothesline attempt by Ambrose onto the shoulders he lands of Cena, but then counters into a sunset roll-up, and he pins John Cena clean on SmackDown.
Yep.
And then Cena's on the floor reacting to this when Styles appears out of nowhere with a flying forearm off the barricade to Cena, and then he comes in and he hits a Pele kick to Ambrose. Bryan comes out and says that Shane McMahon promised Ambrose a title rematch one-on-one with Styles, and he makes the title match for next Tuesday, which Birmingham was not happy with. And then he turns around, and AJ gets hit with the Dirty Deeds from Ambrose, and next week in Cleveland, the site of CM Punk and Mickey Gall will house AJ Styles versus Dean Ambrose, and then we got about 4 minutes of replays and fill by the announcers to get to the top of the hour and the end of SmackDown. It felt like we went a little short here.
Yeah, could be.
What did you feel about the main event?
I thought it was just kind of there for me. Didn't really stand out or grab me.
Which to me is one of the reasons I feel John Cena is one guy. A loss by John Cena, clean no less, should not be something that is just there.
Yeah, and I think a big part of that is because this really wasn't built to. I really had no chance to really anticipate the match.
That's the match that should have been announced for next week. Or announce it last week to go into this week. I agree. It was a cold match. Not cold because we do have the feud going on, but you would have had no idea this was happening until you tuned in, and I would not want to be trivializing Cena losses because then you don't get the impact that you did of a Styles beating him like you did at SummerSlam.
You don't want to trivialize a match like this. You don't want to trivialize a Cena loss. You also don't want to trivialize your title matches, which is what we're getting next week. I hate the positioning of a title match on the Go Home show before you're another.
They got two before.
Okay,
No Mercy.
whatever.
Yeah.
Like I think at any time in the build. So the idea is, yes, you need a main event for next week. Sure. Do I give a shit about the outcome of next week? They're just gonna have another match anyway. You know what I mean? They're fighting to see who gets to go into No Mercy as the champion. Does that matter? Does it matter who goes in?
And does anyone expect the title change
No,
next week?
and that's the other thing, you know? I don't know, and I think it's a waste of it kind of cheapens your title shots. So, I guess they're trying to struggle with trying to come up with a good main event for these TV shows, and I feel like there are more creative ways to like build your TV main events so that they don't overshadow, or at least so that they aren't on the same level as your pay-per-view main events. Which next week will be. Like, at least in storyline, a title match is a title match, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Also, I mean, just from a logic standpoint, we saw Cena lose to AJ Styles, and now lose to Dean. Like, why is he in this match? Just because?
What was the justification last week?
He was just put in the match. There was no qualifying match for him to win. He was just put in the three-way.
Yeah.
So that was SmackDown.
There's a lot of TV. And again, they have to make justifiable pay-per-view level quality main events for all these TV shows, but it gives you little reason to get excited for the actual pay-per-view events themselves.
So I thought there was some good wrestling on this show. I thought Miz and Ziggler had a very good match.
Thank you for
watching. I
watching.
really enjoyed the tag match with the Usos and American Alpha, and I'm not against the idea. Like, you gave hopefully a